Welcome to the Retrospect podcast. Podcast usually where we have three people on talking about life and all kinds of stuff like that from different generations, but today it's just two of us right now.
Where the heck is Stoney? What happened to it? You know, the boomers, right. They're always like this, you know, they show up when they want to.
Yeah, so it's just X-Man and myself, Ian, today. But we're going to try and I think we're going to try and have a little, we're going to try and radio him in. We're going to try and call him in after a while. Just a little tidbit as to what's going on right now. At where he works, he came in contact with someone who had COVID, just like everyone, you know, in the past year or so has had an issue with, you know?
Yeah.
So he's...
Man, a lot of my friends have been in that situation lately.
Yes, people that I've worked with and friends and all that kind of stuff. It's like it all of a sudden it's ramping up again, but...
Yeah, I know. I don't like that either because, you know, I mean, I know that the masks are so important,
right.
But it's so hard to wear them, right? I mean, it's not like it's the thing you want to do, but
exactly.
It's definitely worth it when you're talking about protecting people and stuff like that, though.
So out of an abundance of caution, he's staying home right now, but...
Thank goodness. But you know what? Anytime he wants to stay home, I'm okay with it.
No. You know, like. But hopefully next week he should be on the next podcast, though.
Well, that's good. Then this can be the episode where we just blame the boomers for everything.
Right. Aha.
It's kind of true anyway.
I mean, hey, you know.
I ask my therapist.
Oh, no. Okay, so what's our topic today?
Well, I brought one that I thought, you know, we're a generational show.
Right.
You know, with you as a millennial and me as a Gen Xer and then Stoney as a boomer.
Right.
And an MIA-er.
Of course.
I think that here's what I would like. Okay, so if your generation was going to look at the other two generations represented on our podcast and write an apology letter to those generations, what would the letter say and why?
Wow. What a great question. Oh man. Do you have anything to start off with while I kind of think about that, or do you?
Oh, come on, man. I thought the whole point was that you don't get to think about it.
I guess you're right.
You put me on the spot last week.
Okay, well,
they're so entitled. You know, these millennials, I swear to God, like everything.
Oh
wine.
No, come on. I would have to say...
Well, first of all, which generation are you going to start with? Like,
man,
you've got your choice here.
I don't know. It's difficult because it's like I feel like I would like the first thing I would say for both of the generations is like I'm sorry, like the. It's I don't know. It's so hard of a question. Like, where do you start? Because it's like I feel like I would say, because I know I represent the millennials, but I don't think I hold a lot of the same ideals that a lot of my like.
Okay, so you're like,
so it's like, so for me it's like,
because
I know.
But you're apologizing. Say you're writing an apology on behalf of your generation. So what is it that your generation needs to apologize for? Like, what do you want to say? I'm sorry. So sorry. Come on.
I just feel like it's going to get heavy, like right at the top. It's like I'm sorry for how.
It doesn't have to, Ian. Like the first thing that your generation could do is to like apologize for the soundtrack of your generation. I guess
you're right. Yeah, you're right. The only thing that's coming to mind is just heavy stuff, where it's like I'm sorry for like the state of the world.
Yeah.
To not even the younger generation, but also the older generation. It just feels like everything is so divisive right now. It's like, oh man, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm sorry for the bad music. I guess that is another one. If we're being
You
lighthearted,
really should apologize.
yeah. I mean, there's some of it's not great.
Although if Stoney were here, he should probably say a few apologies for that as well.
But then I also don't want. I'll say if I'm apologizing for like the early 2000s rock music, I'm not apologizing for that. I love that stuff.
I'll give you that. I will give you
jam.
that. I think there's some of that's okay. And I told you, there's a lot from your generation that I can take. There's some stuff, though, out of Stoney's generation that if I have to listen to, my ears would bleed.
Right.
Like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible stuff. Terrible stuff. But, here's one that I was thinking about. I was thinking about how, for... I think my generation held some resentment towards the boomers. As Gen Xers, we kind of held some resentment against the boomers because they classified themselves as, the greatest generation.
Right.
The greatest generation. Now, while that was great in concept, it doesn't necessarily ring true in experience. If you ask a bunch of people out of the Gen X generation how they experience those people, and I'm not saying that everything is bad. So that's what I'd start is not everything was bad that came out of that generation. They were considered the greatest generation because there were some great things that happened. Right. And you have to look at the way that the world evolved. Right. There was so much headway made in the boomer generation, so much innovation and so much like good stuff. Right. So it wasn't just all war and turmoil and all of that stuff. But they kind of get that pinned, on them. And so I would have to say if I needed to start an apology letter to the boomers, it'd probably be like, look, not everything you did was bad. So hear that. Our generation doesn't look at you as just like some loser generation. You really were a great generation. Right. And so I'm sorry that, that you didn't get the credit that you felt you needed, which is why you called yourself the greatest. Right.
I feel like, and also like sitting here for a second and really hearing what you're saying, another one I would probably say is like, I'm sorry that my generation is so soft. I just feel like it's another thing is like, everything feels so sensitive.
Yeah, right.
Especially for like my people that I've worked with in the same thing. It's like I just feel like hearing people that are older than me talk, it's like you've got it easy. It's like I know that, but like I don't know, it still doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
that makes sense. I mean, it's true. I mean, but here's what I'm going to say too, and maybe this ought to be my beginning of my apology letter to the millennials is that you all do get a bad rap for the whole soft, offended, that kind of stuff. But I will tell you this: you also. And this is on behalf of my generation. I'm sorry for the fact that authority couldn't be trusted, which is why you had to upend it. You know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, your generation gets a bad rap because you're not in a great relationship with the blue. You're not getting great. And Stoney's one of them. Listen, I love him. I love him so much, and I never would want him to feel disrespected. On that same thing, though, I have to say. You all questioned authority, and with good reason. It's only though because we came to a place where it was made safe to be discussed. Hard topics, right? I mean, sorry about Jerry Springer too, but I mean, at least you could get it out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then also thinking about in the future, it's like looking at these younger generations. It's crazy to think now that. People born after 2000 are upwards of 18 to 20 years old now. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. It makes me feel old.
Yep.
But it's also like, I'm
Shouldn't you have a couple of kids going into elementary school right now? Why is that my story and not yours? Hey,
Hold on now. This isn't about me.
What's crazy is Stoney has kids my kid's age.
I know.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
I think he should apologize to my generation.
Are you saying I should go find a 10-year-old and just adopt him as my own?
Yeah.
Right,
well,
right.
you know what? I mean, I'm sure there are 10-year-olds out there that would appreciate that. Man. But I'm going to suggest you fatten the wallet because it is a
I'm going to go ahead and apologize to the 10-year-olds out there, and that's not going to happen.
It's an expensive endeavor. Let me tell you.
Right. I understand. Yeah.
I just got finished buying school clothes, man. I am poor.
Yikes.
I'm po.
I'm
po now.
Man, I don't know. There's like so much that I feel like we're doing good, we're making headway on.
Yeah.
But I still feel like there's a lot of stuff that like I don't feel like we're fully finished with yet, and not like in the big picture of like, you know, like race and social justice and all that other stuff. It's like there's even like little things, like especially in like we live in the South, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's like,
oh yeah,
I'm just talking about finding a middle ground is the big thing. It's like I'm not even talking about like like I know there's going to be like radicals on either end,
sure,
but it's like even the people that are not quite so, is like I want to find middle ground with those kind of people is a big thing. Is like I've strived really hard to like younger people or older people, or like regardless of what you believe in or where you're from. If there's one thing my family had taught me, it was like, it doesn't matter what they believe in, it doesn't matter who they are, like what they're people are people, like respect them for who they are, love them for who they are.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and this is what I believe, so again, obviously I know I was raised in a religious background, so it's like at the end of the day, that's between them and God.
Yeah.
It's like you can, if they ask for your opinion and they want to know where you stand on certain things, it's like obviously treat that with respect, and again, obviously don't beat it over their head, because it's not gonna. That doesn't.
Well, that's the point. I mean, well, and I do think that's kind of and I would accept that apology, and here's why. Because here's the deal. Like, I think it's one thing to say, you know, I'm offended because, you know, that there isn't a real injustice happening.
Right.
You know, my problem comes with, I'm offended because a guy opened the door for me.
Right.
And it's kind of like, come on now, you know, that person their intention was just to be kind and nice.
Right.
And to be, you know, we were raised in my generation as men to be gentlemen.
Oh, I mean, same.
And so you were expected
right.
to open the door for you, for any woman
hear me out,
or girl.
Hear me out when I say this. My mom was the one that would like, had it hard ingrained into me, is that if there was a woman or like any person specifically, but specifically a lady, is if there's a door that we're going to walk into, you're going to open the door.
That's right.
And so I understood that. So again, it was like second nature. That was the way it was going to be. But my mom was the one that would always be like, go open that door for, and I was like, I was going to do that anyways. But
I actually had a girl though tell me that she didn't need me to open her door.
Really?
And I'm kind of like, ugh, that's so hard for me. I'm so sorry. It's such second nature.
Exactly.
That I don't even know if I can unprogram that now, you know?
But it's, I think for me is I don't even look at it as a gender thing right now. It's like, anybody, like if I'm walking into a place, I'll always hold the door open for somebody. It's just I don't know, it's just a common courtesy thing for me now, I guess. But that's just but I can see.
But you know, it's that whole argument that you're participating in patriarchy and all that stuff.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm participating in kindness.
Exactly.
You know, like
I'm trying to be a nice person.
I'm not trying to dominate you. I am just trying to, you know, be kind to you and say, hey, fellow human being, would you like to go into the same place I'm going? Why don't you go first?
Exactly.
It's biblical. Yeah. Like if you talked about the religious background, I mean, come on. It just means treat others the way you want to be treated.
Exactly.
Right?
And then and also, especially if you're like carrying stuff too, it's like I've always been in that situation where it's like either have something in my hands or whatever, and it's like just having someone hold the door is nice.
Yeah.
But I know there's also so much that goes into it. And again, when we start talking about this stuff, I was like, I know that I know we've had this conversation before, I think outside of the podcast, but it's like everyone has experienced life differently.
Right.
And everyone's gone through their own trauma and struggle, and I can't even begin to understand all that. so I know that when sometimes people are getting upset, it's like, what are they really upset at? Are they upset at me doing this nice gesture, or is it something else? That's like, and again, that's not my place to know or whatever. But at the same time, like, I don't take some of that stuff personally. Where it's like they're just some people are here to be mad, and that's just the way it is.
Sure.
It's like I don't know. I worked, like I said, at a very big coffee chain, and so the amount of times that you would just a common mistake would just like send people into like overload, and you're like, I think I did a really good job, and I've been told by many people is I did pretty good at like diffusing a situation, is like being able to talk to somebody and just be like, I'm not here to cause a fight. I'm not, trust me, I don't get paid enough for that. It's like, it's like, I'm here to just, how can I help you out the best? What can I do for you that's going to help you feel like you got the best out of the situation?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people were just like, the second you meet them with that, like, they're here, you're here, it's like I mean, I would just like this coffee you remade. It's like, I got it for you. Don't worry about it. And it's like, oh, he's just kind of a nice guy. And it's like,
right.
You're
right.
Like, oh, well,
nice.
Exactly. And you're like, okay, well, I don't.
Well, when I think about, an apology to the older generation, to the boomers, and is kind of like, I'm sorry that, that in some ways we didn't, I don't know, like we didn't have compassion, because there was a lot of stuff that went on. There was, the Vietnam War and all these different things that happened, and the Korean War, all these different things that happened in their lifetimes that we don't quite understand because they're so far from our own experience that we, like the closest thing that I have to draw on from that was, the invasion in Iraq and stuff like that. And so the Desert Storm, those kinds of things. Like I don't really have any like World War kind of fears, in my life. And we were so dominant in those other wars that it wasn't ever a question over, what would happen. But we are that way because of them.
Right.
We're dominant because of the foundation that they laid.
Right.
And so I'm really grateful for those people who laid down their lives and who kind of, kind of made America like a tough enemy, like a tough enemy.
It's like, how do you word this? It's like they went through so much hardship to make it easy to live here, kind of thing. So it's like we are probably, like I said before initially, I don't know if that's the correct term, but like sensitive because of all the stuff that was like, it was because they were able to facilitate a safe place to live, or like a country that feels like it's,
it's just when they came back, though, we didn't make them feel appreciated. Of course. And instead, we put them in, substandard healthcare system and, just the way that we treated people. I feel like we could have been much greater at being compassionate towards what was going on. And I tell you this story, I shared a little bit on the last podcast. I grew up with a mother who suffered with alcoholism. And so, but I want you to hear me, though, when there was stuff behind that. It wasn't like she just woke up and said, hey, I want to be an alcoholic.
Exactly.
I mean, she had a son who was only 7 years old, and he died of leukemia. Wow. And so that
I can't even process how.
No, I mean, a 7-year-old. I mean, to watch your 7-year-old kid die. He died. He went to treatments at MD Anderson in Houston, Texas, at the time. And so when all of that happened in her life, it ruined her family because, she had a husband who needed to be consoled, but she wasn't in a place to do that.
No.
And so it split the family up. And I was born into kind of that time frame after all of that happened. And let me tell you, man, like I was really mad at her my whole life practically because I was growing up with an alcoholic and it wasn't fun. It was no treat. But then at the same time, it wasn't until I had children of my own and then we were at an event and one of my children almost died at the event. They had a near-death experience.
I believe you told me this story before.
Yeah, and so let me tell you, when that happened, and I had to face what life might look like in my own personal, feelings of devastation if that were to play out.
Even just entertaining the idea of it.
It's just the thought of it. it made me look back and go, I really could have shown more compassion.
Wow, yeah.
Because now that I've come so close to that,
Right.
what that must have been like I might want to drink too.
Honestly, right, exactly.
I should have had more compassion, but it just wasn't. Because of the experience I was having, it took me years and years and years to get to that place.
Of course.
And so, but I would apologize to the boomers for not having enough compassion for the experience that they had, because the world was so broken and because there was so much war and so much evil trying to take over the earth. When you have, back then when you had Hitler and all of that going on, I mean, that was a big deal. I mean, that was, you're talking about world domination and a greedy power that wanted to take over everything. And so
just killing people just for what seems like, So
we survived on the backs of those people who went and faced that. And so I definitely would say I owe an apology for compassion to that generation.
The more I'm sitting here thinking about it, and like you're talking about some of that, is like, I feel like I would apologize for some people in my generation not taking care of people in older generations, or at least, I mean, if they do, looking back with a certain disdain. It's like, and again, I know times are different. I know people have certain ways that they're stuck in, and no one's perfect. I understand that. But I think it's still like, some people, I think, owe some respect that I think that a lot of people don't give them, and it's like because of certain outlooks they have or something like that. And I don't know.
And you make a lot of sense when you say that. I really think that ageism, I think it's going to be the new ism, the new injustice,
right?
I really do, because our world is getting older,
right?
By I think they said by 2030, there are going to be more grandparents in our world than there are grandchildren.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
That's crazy.
And so, whereas before, a lot of social help and all of that was geared, towards younger citizens, young people, there are going to be more and more need.
Because you're saying all that, but then again, it's also, I'm the one sitting here, like I said.
That's going to be you
approaching 30.
Right. Yeah,
and it's like, and I don't have any kids. And it's like, and do I want kids? Not for again, when I look at myself, and I think, my 5-year goal, I hope to be hopefully married.
Yeah.
I have a few ideas for a career lined up.
Mm-hmm.
I have cool opportunities. I'm thinking about having another stint in Canada, because I really loved it there.
Yeah.
So it's like, but when I think about all that, kids are not in the picture really, and it's like, and now I know, again, that's all plans, and I know usually kids don't come whenever you plan them to, and all that kind of stuff, or again, the idea of it. So it's like, but again, just to further solidify what you're talking about, it's like, like I said, I'm in that same bracket of
y'all are definitely having a lot less kids.
Exactly.
Now, I will tell you this. I think you should be sorry for that. That is not right.
Oh, yeah.
We need.
Especially because again, another little brief history of myself is I never really knew my actual grandmother, because my mom was raised by her grandmother. So I always called my great-grandmother grandma.
Interesting.
So it was it was just that whole dynamic of mother was not really in the picture as far as, or again, we don't got to get into all it. Was just not a great lady.
Yeah.
But my great-grandmother, like I said, was a wonderful person. And was just loving and caring and just an awesome.
So that was your grand figure.
Yes, exactly.
Right,
so she lived literally probably 4 or 5 houses down from where we lived. So I used to ride my little tricycle down to her house, and she would meet me halfway, that kind of stuff. It was an awesome lady. And again, she was born, I want to say she was 80 something in 2010. So I want to say she was, give or take, born in the 1920 something or whatever, or give or take there. And she was the last child of 13.
Mm-hmm.
So it was again, talk about the disparity of my great-grandmother was born in a family where they lived on a house where if you wanted to go get water, you went outside to the what you call it,
the well,
or whatever. Yeah, to to
go
pump water.
fetch it.
Yeah, go fetch the water from the pail, or whatever. And I was like, and again, like I said, was the youngest of I want to say it was either 12 or 13 kids. I can't quite remember, but again, they owned farmland, and it was just one of those things that like. And again, like I said, to watch history, trickle on, and now I'm sitting here like, do I even want kids?
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's crazy to think about,
But you know what? Y'all are asking the right kinds of questions because our generation didn't even think about it, man. We just, boom, we just went in there, 2, 3, 4, it didn't matter. And the one before us was even worse than that. I mean, Stoney's generation, my Lord.
Yeah.
It's like, keep it in your pants for crying out loud.
Please.
Right. Is that all you do?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I have friends out of that generation that are like, I'm the oldest of 11, and I'm like,
gosh.
what?
Wait, how many? What are you doing?
How do you even have a house with 11 kids in it?
I can't even fathom how many rooms you have to have.
I have 2, and I want to run out in my front yard screaming sometimes. I can't even imagine living with 11 children in your house.
It would probably just feel like roommates at that point, or just owning a daycare or something.
I think we ought to ask our audience, if you were a kid growing up in your generation with a bunch of kids, you need to write in and give us some topics to mull over.
Because I was raised with 2 younger brothers.
Okay.
So I had a family of 5. It was pretty, and again, my dad, like I said last episode, was offshore. So he was like home 2 weeks, off 2 weeks. And so it was like it was a pretty solid. And again, each
did the 5 include your parents?
Yeah.
So there were 5
total.
Okay.
So for the most part, my mom, and again, each of my brothers are 2 years apart. So I was, let's just say, for instance, when I was 8, my middle brother was 6, and my youngest brother was 4. So there was a point in time where my mom was like, you 3 boys are eating me out of house and home. And like, we would literally were, because again, we were grown boys between the ages of 8 and 14 or whatever. It was like, we were all grown boys and we're just rambunctious and, so.
Yeah.
But that's about the extent of it. I never really had a bigger family than that. So again, to think like you can have more than 3 kids, because I knew we were a handful for my mom a lot of times. To think,
yeah. Our family was we only had one more than y'all. So we had, but I didn't have both parents in the house. My mother was a single mother raising 4 kids.
Oh, jeez.
And what was wild is that all of my brother and my 2 sisters were much older than me.
Really?
Yeah. So it's crazy because we're like a split generational family. So my siblings are boomers and I'm the only Gen Xer.
Wow.
Because there's like 11 years difference between us. And so, I mean,
oh my gosh.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. That must feel even, because I think I had friends that were the same way. Like they were like, I want to say Dylan, the person that's on the other podcast that I'm with, he's kind of like that. He has like 3 older sisters, and like 2 of them are significantly older than he is. And I'm like, what does that even feel like?
I know.
So,
well, see, I mean, like if they're like after the divorce happened, everything. Like my dad was 17.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And see, I didn't really have a real deep relationship with my biological dad because I didn't even know he was my biological dad until way later in life, like until I was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But what's crazy about this is just that, when you live that far apart in years, even under the same roof, it can really create some interesting dynamics.
I bet.
And I know we're going to get into that on this show
of course.
As we go down the road.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it made for a very interesting, because there was always these mature and complex situations going on that I was a little too young to understand. Like, what the heck? I really thought that everybody in my life was crazy.
I believe it that way.
They were just so dramatic and so much different,
There's just so much drama going on.
And I'm like, all I want to do is build, Tinker Toys.
Yeah, exactly. I got Legos to make right
so
now.
Upset about everything,
Exactly.
But that's a generation. They're so serious. But what do you think Stoney ought to be sorry for? I mean, let's just come up with a list.
Try and call him
up. Sure. Yeah.
Let's
see if we can. Let's tell him he owes us an apology.
Right.
We want to know what he's gonna he's gonna apologize for.
Start the conversation. Yeah. You owe us an apology.
Yeah. We demand an apology.
Okay, hold on. Let's see.
I'm sure this is gonna go real well.
Oh, right. Hold on. Let's see how this works.
Asking an old fart for an apology it always goes great.
No.
It always goes great.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Stoney? You're on the podcast.
Oh, awesome. How about that?
Yeah. Don't sound so invigorated.
Yeah.
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 All right. So Stoney, can you hear me?
I absolutely can hear you.
All right, bro. So here's the topic I came up with. So we all come from a different generation, me, you, and Ian. And so if your generation, you representing your generation, could write the other two generations an apology letter, what would it say and why?
Okay, well, first off, I heard the first part, you broke up, and then I got the second part. Can you say the first part again?
God, these old people, I swear. Get some hearing aids, old man.
Yeah, well, it was technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Yes.
Why don't you talk to the millennial over there about getting the technology right?
I'm doing my best, thank you.
So the question is, you representing your generation, if and you're going to write the other two generations an apology letter on behalf of your generation, what would that letter say and why?
Oh, wow.
In other words, we want an apology, damn it.
You want an apology? Great. I left it to y'all in such a good place, and y'all had to go and fart it up.
I told you, Ian. I told you that's what he said. The greatest generation. There they go again.
Right.
We left it in the good place for y'all, and y'all are about to muck it up.
Oh, thanks. So that does not sound like an apology.
Sorry.
You jerk.
I am so sorry for leaving it to y'all in a great place to give y'all room to mess it up.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very sincere. Actually, it does, but not for good reasons.
In the wrong way.
Right?
So we've had a robust discussion about that, and I've apologized for the way that my generation treated your generation after your generation did so much to defend our country in war and stuff abroad. Not things that you were asking for, but things that happened. And then the way that your generation was treated when they came home, it was just wrong. And so as much as the protest and things like that, we could have cared better for people, the way that we put veterans in the VA hospitals and the way that those ran. It was just a travesty. And so, that's one of the things that I admitted that I would apologize to. Ian, on the other hand, apologized for nothing.
Oh, come on.
Well, Ian and his generation need to apologize for taking our freedoms away in less than one generation. That can be the first thing he can apologize for.
I couldn't agree more, Stoney.
I apologize for the fact that I think a lot of our generations a little too sensitive about certain things that I think are topics we need to talk about and stuff like that. And then I also had said something along the lines of that that I think people in my generation don't treat people in older generations with respect or just for any type of care. I think there's certain people that just disregard a lot of things that the older generations will say, whether it be something actually like imparting wisdom or that kind of stuff. So
I get the impression basically that I should have about one or two sentences of apology to y'all. The X-Man should probably have one or two paragraphs of apology, but Ian needs to have 10 or 20 pages
paper.
I
agree.
Just the things that they have to apologize for. Butt hurt, feelings hurt,
right.
Messing up the freedoms in America hurt.
Wow.
And just I think we should have everything for free hurt. Let's change it into a socialistic
but Stoney,
government.
it's your ass that should be apologizing right now, not him. We're asking you, what should you do? What should you say you're sorry for on behalf of your generation?
I did. We left it in such a great place. We gave y'all room to muck it up. That was my apology.
Wow.
Sorry we left it in a great place.
Wow. And here is the problem. This is why my generation's had such a hard time saying
I'm sorry we left y'all in such a financial wonder and to where you could give your children anything that they wanted that X-Man's generation spoiled them, and then we get the millennial over here.
Unbelievable. This is the most unbelievable, ridiculous use of my time.
I have one question. Yes. I only have one question. Mm-hmm. Did you expect anything different?
No. Of course not. Okay, we predicted the whole thing. Our whole audience right now is rolling.
Y'all had to call in because I am actually under quarantine right now. Somebody at my work got COVID and I'm under quarantine.
Exactly.
So I have a feeling like this discussion's been going on for about 10 or 15 minutes and I'm completely been set up. And y'all think I'm just going to cave. No, I'm not caving.
Yeah, definitely not set up. No, we before we called you, though, we definitely said, I wonder what he's going to say. And then X-Men had basically said something along the lines of, like, how great their generation is. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's right.
I predicted
not
this.
Called the greatest generation for nothing.
Told you. You're like taking the words out of my mouth. You're so predictable.
Oh, man.
Well, you have to think about it like this. Kids... when they were 18 and 19 in my generation, they were jumping out of helicopters. Mm-hmm. They were storming the beach of Normandy. And the millennial generation are walking around, give it to me free because my feelings are hurt and everybody needs to feel my feelings.
No, bro. They're like, you dumbasses. Didn't you ever hear of a drone?
I feel personally attacked.
I'm just saying, good Lord.
They've wised up. They're playing They're playing war like on their joysticks from home in their boxers. They're hanging out.
Oh man, what a crazy time.
But dude, seriously, is there nothing? Is there absolutely zero humility in you? You can't even say one thing that your generation should be sorry for. You think you just did everything right?
No, not everything was done right. I actually believe that. Prior to my generation, nothing, absolutely nothing was disposable. And after World War II, I think a lot of things became disposable. We lost our way. And that has led to a lot of the things today. I've been writing a book for about 20 years now about, the process of becoming disposable in America. And it's horrible. The TV dinner, was the first quickie dinner that popped out. And from then it just kind of kept coming to where now everything is disposable. Wives, friendships, children, babies, cars, TVs.
Yeah.
I remember in my generation, you had a console TV that you intended on leaving to your grandkids.
Right. Yeah.
Or bury someone in it.
Yeah.
Or bury.
Because they would fit.
You're right.
And then, of course, it took the X-Men generation to take those and put aquariums in them.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? We were groovy like that.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'll give you that. You were groovy like that.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That's okay. We did the world a favor and changed the music scene and the movie scene and all of that sort of stuff. We gave you... For crying out loud.
I give you the music. I'm not going to.
The arts and entertainment world benefited from us, my friend.
No, I'll say the music. I won't agree with the movies.
Oh, come on. Please. Have you ever seen Shawshank Redemption? Have you ever seen these are Star Wars? These are only the greatest movies ever made.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Oh man.
So that's the only thing you think you should apologize for?
Pretty much, yes.
Well, there you go.
I knew it, dude.
Stony folks.
So let me ask you this, Ian. Like on the flip side of this conversation,
right?
What do you think your generation should get an apology for from the other generations?
I was just about to say this. There's one thing I think you guys haven't touched on that I think is something that's important, but I don't think it is any one generation. I think it is also just a product of I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. Is the overall environment. We have so much waste and so much. It kind of parlays into what he was saying about everything's so disposable. Uh-huh. Everything in the world is so disposable, and I think that's a big problem. Of now we have so much everything's trash now.
Then I'll go ahead and leave X-Man to apologize for that because that stems from him. That stems from the X generation.
So you started it and he finished it.
Whatever. You had disposable razors. I remember those as a baby. I remember your disposable razors and TV dinners as a baby, bro. I hate to tell you, you started it. Oh, and by the way, here's what I think you should be apologizing for, brother Stoney, and that is your capacity as a generation to sweep important shit under the rug.
Oh man,
like y'all just didn't want to talk about stuff, so you just swept it under the rug and made it not okay to talk about things that were really tragic happening. And so, that's something that
I can't speak on that because it may infringe on national security.
See, here we go.
Oh, there you go.
Here we go. Here we go. Of course,
that's classified. I'm sorry.
Here he goes, sweeping the discussion about sweeping things under the rug.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Can I say another one?
Yeah.
Again, this is not for me, but this is probably people in my generation. Is the generation before us? A lot of the fathers not being around.
Oh yeah, man.
Just leaving or whatever.
Once again, what generation are you looking at? X-Man.
I'm just saying. Like I'm saying. Like, I
think that's because your generation convinced women they should stick with your butts.
Oh my gosh.
Our generation's made it okay to go. Never mind. I'm out.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not.
At least we gave them something to stick around for.
Wow. Yeah.
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah, but that's one thing I was thinking about that. Again, I couldn't apologize for, or I guess I could apologize to the younger generation for. Is again, I think the millennial generation has a hard time, or is now starting to learn like, oh, what it's like to be a dad because I never had one, kind of thing.
Well, it comes down to, again, what I think is disposable in our society.
Right.
Families are disposable.
It's sad.
I mean, it's a horrible fact. Just look at the divorce rate over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then the next thing was when you were a kid and you moved out, you moved on the same street as your parents, or you moved in the same neighborhood as your parents.
Really?
And now you want to move so far away from your parents that you don't even have to have contact with them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I moved away forever, but I'm a prime example. My parents got split up and I moved away to Canada. So
yeah, it's like run.
yeah. Just get out of here. I'm tired of listening to all this. Mm-hmm. So I mean,
yep.
And Canada of all places, bro.
I mean, hey, it was a beautiful place.
Wow,
I loved it. It was great. I want to go back.
It's beautiful, and that's cool, but it's cold as shit up there.
Yes, you're right.
And it's also a socialistic government.
Hear me out when I say I moved at the tail end of January, and it was the coldest part of the year, and I was like, what am I doing? And then, it turned out okay, though.
But you were smart enough to come back, so that's all that matters.
Did your hair bun keep you warm?
No, it did not. I had to invest in gloves and scarves.
Another worthless item from the millennials.
It's okay. He probably knitted them from his, nasal or his nose hair or something.
Right. I crocheted my own scarves or whatever. That's right.
That's greatness. So, well, Stoney, I hate that you're unapologetic.
Right.
You really should be.
I hate that you're not here in person. That's the worst part.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Right. I really feel like I could throw water on you right now, but since you're not here,
yeah,
that's all right.
So I'm not really kind of buying this either, bro. I know that you're in a new relationship and you're all lost in love. You're probably just doing like the 14-day quote unquote quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, somebody was pretty close, and this is kind of serious at work right now, and it's a sign of the times right now. And
bro, that's sad to hear.
I believe in our area we got a new mask mandate coming down the pipe. I believe
you're right.
So I don't think this COVID thing is over.
Can I just say one thing? I mean, I know everything. I know everyone has differing opinions from all walks of life on the whole COVID thing. I understand it's very political and it's also very much everything else. But if there's one thing I can say is that no matter what generation you are, what race you are, what you believe in, it's getting everybody. So it's like at this point, if nothing else, I know it's not unifying us.
Like an equal offender, right?
Right. I know it's not unifying all of us, but I have felt in my own world that it is something that is uniting all of us together, even though it's awful, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody or any culture or society.
Well, I think one of the things that it is doing, I think that it's causing a unification in America on their freedoms.
Mm.
People are tired of a group of people in America trying to take away their freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that comes out of this whole COVID thing is Americans are going to get tired of their freedoms getting taken away.
Right.
Well, one thing
even your generation.
Shut up, Stoney. One of the things I do want you to know is that one of the apologies I made to your generation, I'm almost like rethinking it now because you're such a jerk. But I
Killing
thought
Disco, y'all shot and killed Disco. You apologized for that finally.
No, but what I did apologize for is I just felt like we could do better at showing you compassion. So in light of that, I'm sorry that you are quarantined.
I take that. Okay. I thought you were going to take the other route. He took the high road. I thought he was going to take the low road and go, I take it back. I'm no longer compassionate to you, jerk.
See?
So I thought,
wow.
See the way ends generation thinks?
No. I didn't.
Yeah,
No.
See,
you nailed it right there.
Oh my
He
God,
basically
no.
just screwed y'all again.
No.
You
Oh my
nailed
God.
it right there,
Oh my
X-Man.
gosh.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Defending the elderly. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
You're making up for some of that stuff right there.
Well, is there anything else any other words of wisdom, Stoney, you want to add?
No, that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys, for including me. I wish I could be there with y'all. I love you both. Finish the show good. Make me proud.
Hey, it's going to be your turn for a topic next week, so you better come with something nice.
I've already got it.
Yeah.
Nice.
We'll come out. We're expecting we have big high expectations considering you're sitting around doing nothing.
And
for
you're
2
also
weeks.
the best generation.
Here's the thing: the first podcast we had was kind of heavy.
Yeah.
This one was kind of apologetic.
Right.
The next one's going to be really, really light, fluffy, and fun.
Nice.
But
I
I'll
love it.
Oh God, Ian's gonna eat that crap up.
Hey.
Ian's gonna eat that up. He loves fluffy.
Wait a second.
Oh wow.
Jeez.
Well, Stoney, we're grateful for you, bro. Hang in there
Right,
and get through it, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Later,
Peace,
man.
guys.
Peace. God, what a jerk.
I don't even think I was finished hanging up yet. He may have still heard that. Oh, man.
Well, he's got a little bit of a point,
Right.
in terms of they handed us stuff over, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. It's because they were they were still rocking, stone wheels and,
Oh, man.
like they were just still learning how to fly. I mean, you have to think where they're coming from.
It's all and the more I think about it, which is one of those topics I don't need to get into right now but we talked about it a little bit last episode. It's just the progression of stuff through time.
Yeah.
It's even stuff from my mom's generation was she's born in late 60s or whatever, or early 70s.
I am your mom's generation.
But that's what I'm saying. Is even stuff from, what I would consider not that long ago.
Yeah.
And then again, even from stuff I remember, I vividly remember stuff in early 2000s, and it's man, to think that it feels like everything's moving so fast now. It's
no, man, it is. But seriously, from his generation, there was nowhere but up.
Right.
I mean, so they have this kind of distorted view of themselves within all of that. I mean, shit. They hadn't even.
Yeah, you're right.
They never had fast food. They never had anything that all of that stuff came on the hard backs of my people.
Right.
I
think the funniest thing is the fact that he was I have nothing else to apologize for, but how great we left everything. And I was oh man.
I know. I'm sitting there. Are you kidding me?
You called it.
Well, I did call him out on their
right.
on their capacity to sweep things under the rug, and I'm not kidding about
yes.
that.
Oh, yeah.
They should have talked about some stuff,
right?
But because they thought that they were so cool
and so much better,
and everything was about how people saw them,
right?
I mean, seriously, they didn't talk about things
exactly,
and so they let hard topics interracial marriage and rape and all these things. It wasn't until you saw television come in that really those things started. It was the arts that really introduced some of that and solutions to some of that and gave voice to some of that, because there was stuff going on in families. And it wasn't you didn't just call the police and work out your problems, right?
Or if you did, they were going to be your family
would have
Right,
They
right.
would taking you out back and kicked your butt, right?
Right.
So, but there was just stuff that, or they would send you away. That was the kind of their kind of thing for everything.
The white, what is it, the white coats or whatever would come and get you.
Yeah, they
Crazy
would
folks.
or they would send you to war. I mean, they send you to the front lines of war and stuff.
Right, you're right.
Yeah, they would check your little butt into
Oh,
the military, and you were gone.
There has been points in time in my life specifically that like I've thought about like joining the military or joining some form of the Navy or something like that or whatever, and it's like I haven't, but it's like, but again, the fact that like it was just so ubiquitous, like with like my grandfather, for instance, was in the Air Force, and it's like the fact that like everyone I think contributed in like an older generation to like the effort, and I'm sitting here like,
yeah,
I don't, and it's crazy to think too that, I don't know. I feel like I could do more with some of that, but
yeah, but I will say at least we're fighting. We have the capacity now to fight smart,
right,
and not and minimize the cost of human life, which
right.
I really appreciate that, especially if we're going to have to deal with stuff that way.
Yes,
if that's how it's going to have to be, then at least don't hurt people and their families in order and bust up their families and stuff because their people are getting killed,
right,
especially not on our soil. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to go fight somewhere, then do it remotely,
right.
as often as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I feel strongly about that, but listen, this has been a really interesting conversation because I really appreciate some of the things that I've heard from you, and I think it's good that we own that our generations each have great things about them, but they also have things about them that they weren't so great, and so I think just saying some of that stuff out loud and acknowledging it is healthy, and I also think it's very healing.
For me, it's definitely given me a perspective on certain things of like, I don't know, it's always easier to point the finger and blame somebody else for things.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to go like, I'm sorry for what the people around me are doing or that I'm doing,
Yeah.
So,
well, if you're out there and you're a millennial or you're a boomer, I just want you to know, I'm sorry. So sorry.
Right. I'm trying to set up a place for questions to be submitted.
Good.
I definitely want to hear user submitted questions, different topics to talk about. So if you have any of those, I'm going to try and figure out a way. I'm probably going to do it on the link tree.
Make sure you describe it in detail so when Stoney's generation goes on the Google, they can find it. And
right. Yeah, make it real simple to get to. Yeah. But if you're looking for us, the name is just Retrospect. You can look us up on all the major podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You can find us all there. We have a link tree /eWolf. It has all the links there as well that you can go to, or the website that you can listen to all the episodes for free.
And tell your friends.
Yes. The best way for a podcast is word of mouth, from what I've been told. So.
And like we said last week, we're always looking to offend new people. So
exactly,
please bring it on.
Please. Let's all be offended together.
That's
Come on.
right.
If there's one thing I want to do is I want to unify us all together about being offended about something.
Yeah.
Please.
Perfect.
Yeah. Let's make that a tagline.
That's great. Great job today, man.
But anyways, until next week, we're going to have Stoney's apparently fluffy topic, so
This I can't wait for.
okay. Bye.
Bye.